Hello and welcome back to Surreal Thoughtz Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how to love yourself. As you can see in this day and age, we have grown up with social media. Now, you may be wondering, why am I bringing social media into this when I'm talking about how to love yourself? Well, here's why. Imagine growing up as a teenager and all you're surrounded by is stuff that's posted online. People showing off, flexing. Oh, I'm wearing this. Oh, I'm going out to this place. Oh, look how I look today. And most of the times, we can only see the positive stuff. So only the stuff people want to show us, not everything else that's going on. And see, that's the problem. So a lot of times, people will end up comparing themselves to other people, to other people's lives, which they have no clue about at all. The reason why this happens is because the person who's comparing themselves, they don't feel too secure with who they are as a person. They haven't learned to embrace every part of themselves. Maybe they focus too much on the negative stuff. Or maybe all they could hear in their head is just the stuff that other people have convinced them that they are. And so what happens when you grow up with all of these negativity in your head? It becomes very hard to pull away from it. It becomes all that you know. So social media, such a funny place, isn't it? Because you see all kinds of people on there. You see people who troll, and it's always the people with no profile picture. Why do you think that is? Because they're afraid. They're afraid for other people to judge them. They're scared that someone will point out their flaw. The same flaw that they're making fun of the other person. The other person that they're trolling. See, this is what I mean by projection. People project a lot of times. And that's why I can't really take it personally. If anything, I feel more sorry for you. Because you hate yourself. And you're hating on me just because I'm learning to love myself. Now, how am I learning to love myself? Funny you asked. This shall be the topic of our episode. Today, I'm going to teach you how to start loving yourself. What are the ways you could implement self-love activities into your life, and especially into your daily life, because it needs to become a daily practice, and that's how we turn it into a habit. So, one of the ways you could start doing that is by taking yourself out on dates. I've done that recently. I went out. Well, this is how it started. Let me tell you how it went. So I was at work and then I was talking to my colleagues, and my manager told me that he's been to this nice Persian restaurant before, because I was talking about Arab food, and he mentioned something, I can't remember exactly, but he seemed to know about Middle Eastern food. So I was intrigued. I thought, okay, maybe it is a very good restaurant. So I went ahead next day. I planned it. I took myself there. It was so nice, especially because of the weather these days. So I got there. I had my meal. It was okay. It was nice. It wasn't the best because I have tried the best. So my standards for the food is quite high. But it's okay. I'm blessed. It was a nice, enjoyable date. After that, I went outside and I was walking down the road and I saw this shop that sells plants, flowers, everything. And I thought, you know what? I want to buy myself a rose today. Just one. But then I actually ended up buying two, but whatever. It's okay. Why not? You know, now the flower has a friend for itself. So I got one red rose and I got one white rose. And the guy wrapped it for me as well in a see-through thingy majig. I don't know, I loved it. It was so cute. And I was just walking around with it and it made me so happy. It's part of my outfit, you know, like having the flower as accessories. Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean. So anyways, after that, I went to a little cute coffee shop. It's called the Coffee Room in Myland. And I sat outside. I was just journaling, writing down ideas for my podcast, my blog management, all that stuff. And I had my camera with me that day as well. I took some photos, which I did edit. I will share them online, hopefully on my blog as well. Oh, by the way, speaking of my blog, it's finally live. So if you type in www.surrealthoughtz with the Z .blog, you'll find it. I'm going to start posting daily, like stuff I do, my thoughts, moments of inspiration, and so on. And also, I'll write a blog post regarding this episode so you could read it and understand more in depth what I'm talking about. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. So I took some photos that day, and I thought, this is nice. Like, I'm actually taking myself out on a nice, cute little date. By doing things like that, you're teaching yourself how you want to get treated by others. And especially if it's like a romantic partner in the future. It's a bit more different. Like, you can be, intimate with friends emotionally, mentally, whatever. But once you have that romantic partner, it's a bit more different. It's like they get access to you, no one else does. So if you don't love yourself and you're allowing yourself to be accessed like that by someone who may not love you properly the way you want to be loved, and the reason why I say that is because if you're not sure how you want to be loved, which is if you don't take yourself out on dates and discover who you are, then you don't know what you want, what you don't want, and you're just going to take whatever you're, given. And that's the problem. So taking yourself out on dates is crucial. You don't know what you like, what you don't like, what you will accept, what you wouldn't accept. And also by doing that, you are putting out the energy into the universe that you're taking care of yourself. And law of attraction is you get what you put out. And that's how you attract. You attract things that are on the same frequency as you. So if you're vibrating on that self-love frequency, you're bound to get love back. Whether that'll be shown by walking down the street, someone may compliment you, or you just get good vibes back because that's what you're putting out. And when you do that, you are telling the world you love yourself. This is how I expect to get treated. Nothing else, nothing less than that. Look, it's not easy. I understand. Trust me. The reason why I'm talking about this is to also help myself, to teach myself self-love. It gets a bit wordy, doesn't it? But not all of us are born with that self-love, especially if we didn't grow up having a perfect life. We don't get taught how to love ourselves. And oftentimes we end up neglecting ourselves. We fail to discover who we are. How are we meant to love others when we don't love ourselves? How are we meant to be dating someone when we haven't dated ourselves? If you haven't discovered who you are, what your likes, what your dislikes, what you can put up with, what you expect, how do you know what you want? How do you know what to expect? The reason why you also need to get very crystal clear on what you want, it's because if you're putting the thought out there into the universe, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, then the universe can give you exactly what you want. But if you're putting out that energy of uncertainty, of being confused, of switching from one day to this, one day to that, then you're putting out confused energy. It's not focused. And in order to get something you want, to achieve your goals, all of that, you first need to make sure that your energy is focused and your attention is focused. It's disciplined. You need to discipline your energy and focus. Because when you're thinking about other irrelevant things all the time, then you're constantly giving that energy away to different kind of stuff, different bunch of stuff. And the thing that you really do need is not getting that energy and attention it needs from you. So why do we dwell on those things that don't matter? It's because we're so afraid of facing ourselves. were scared to look into the mirror and to see that little person that's inside of us that's ashamed. Is it shame that you feel about yourself? Have you not been taught to embrace every side of you? Same way you would have a child. Imagine you had a kid, and obviously the kid would have some flaws. Can you imagine yourself shouting at the kid, talking down on the kid, telling the kid, you're this, you're that, you're unlovable because of this? Imagine talking to your child like that. You can't believe it, right? So imagine like if you accidentally dropped a plate and it broke. The way you may speak to yourself in that moment, you may say stuff like, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so clumsy. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Why would you say that? It's just a plate. Like, let's think about it very deeply for a second. It's just a plate, which you can buy another one. Cool. But the way you speak to yourself, your body, your mind, your soul, it doesn't forget that. You could buy another plate. You're not going to remember that specific plate 5 years down the line. But your body, it keeps the scores of how you speak to yourself. The trauma that gets inflicted upon you, your body remembers that. And that's why it's very important to cultivate a lifestyle, a kind of way of living that minimizes those traumatic experiences. If it's obviously within your control, because I do understand, of course, that not everything is within our control. Sometimes people traumatize you and you have no control over that. But let's not make it even worse by inflicting trauma on ourselves that we can prevent, which is one of the things is the way you speak to yourself. You need to speak to yourself with love. How do you expect someone to speak to you in a nice, lovely way if you don't even do it for yourself? So it all starts with the self. Don't focus so much on other people. Focus on you. Do you like yourself? And sometimes when you start to overthink about, oh, does this person like me or not? Ask yourself, do you even like them yourself? Why should we care about other people's validation and approval? It doesn't do anything for us. The only body you're stuck with and mind is yourself. Make sure it's a nice place because you're there forever. Yeah, whether you like it or not. So, since we're forced to be with ourselves, we might as well learn to love who we are. Because, come on, you can't die. Yeah, we're not going to get into that, but I know you're a strong soldier. And there's a reason why you were born. To find that drive, first you need to understand your purpose. Why do you think you are here? Everyone is here for a reason, okay? Nothing happens for no reason. Everything does happen for a reason. And whether you can see that right now or not, you can't. So let's focus on the baby steps that we can take. So what baby steps you can take today? Well, I'll tell you. You can do things such as journaling. If you journal daily, even if you can't do it every day, if you do it once a week, it will help you to detox your mind, especially if you've been brainwashed to think negative things about yourself. You need to journal so then you can figure out where this thought stems from, who has incepted this thought in your mind and why. When you break down all these things down, you could see what the problem is, the root of the issue, and how you could change that. So if you have thoughts such as, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at my hobbies, I suck, or whatever, write down, when was the first time you heard that thought? Who has given you that opinion of you? Sometimes it's not anyone else, sometimes it's you assuming by making up a story in your mind to fill in the gaps for things that don't make sense. Sometimes, especially when you don't get closure, whether it's from people or things that have happened before. So journaling is key. Another thing you could do is you could literally do voice notes, record yourself talking to yourself. If you don't have the time or energy to journal every day, you could record yourself, even outside as you're walking, as if you're talking to a friend. Talk to yourself. Basically, anything you do that would allow you to sit down and have a conversation with yourself, that is a form of meditation in a way, where you could block out the world, block out external things that are plaguing your mind with negativity. So journaling, doing voice notes, those so far is two things. Now, you could also, which is what I've been talking about, taking yourself out on a date, even if you can't go outside, especially for people who have anxiety and so on. You could literally create a nice dinner date for yourself at home. You could order ingredients. You could order it online using Uber Eats, whatever you use, and make a nice home-cooked meal for yourself. If you don't have energy, you could order something. As long as you get to have that moment with yourself, the same way that you would expect someone to do that for you. Don't wait for someone to do it for you. Do it for yourself, because sometimes that person will never come, especially if you're always dependent on that, especially if you're just expecting that someone will come along and save you. They wouldn't. First, you have to save yourself, because even if someone does come along and help you out, what will you do after they leave? You just go back to square one. There's no point in that. That is not sustainable solution. We must implement sustainable solutions that we could rely on even when things are falling apart. By setting that foundation in your mind, nothing could come and make it crumble. You create that force within you where no one could come along and change that perception, the way you perceive yourself. And that's the least you could do for yourself after years of enduring trauma and neglect and mistreatments from people. Another thing you could also do is create, in your notes app, you could create a folder, title it About Me, whatever you want to call it. And as you go along, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whenever, add to that folder things that you discover about yourself and you're like, oh, I like this, write it down. And then at the end, you'll see you're basically like creating your profile of who you are, essentially. So, sometimes when people ask you, so tell me about yourself, and sometimes your mind is just blank because you haven't had that moment to actually sit with yourself and wonder what that is. It's like you've been working on autopilot subconsciously, just doing what you've been programmed to do. So when you're faced with a question like that, it just comes up as blank, but not because you don't actually have things to talk about. You need to write these things down. That's how we remember, by writing down. Otherwise, if you just say things out loud all the time, it gets like you forget about it, right? So writing it down really helps to drill it into your mind, drill the information in your mind. And then once it becomes an automatic response where you could easily answer what you like, what you don't like, that is putting out the energy into the universe that you're sure of what you're saying, you're certain of who you are. If you don't have a secure image of who you are, and it always gets influenced by other things, then you're lost, you're disconnected. How do you expect the world to connect with you if you can't even connect with yourself? So just find new activities that you can do every day, once a week, whenever you have the time. But you must at least create 5 minutes in the day where you could talk to yourself. You have to make 5 minutes out of your day for yourself. Think about it. It's not that long. You could literally be in the toilet for 10 minutes on your phone, right? So 5 minutes is not too hard. You could put some nice relaxing music in the background, write your thoughts down, or even just stare at the wall and just zone out, Zen. Have a nice Zen peaceful moment. Let's see. What else can we do? What would you do for someone else? If you're trying to know someone, how would you try to get to know them? You would ask them questions, right? So you could do that. If you can't think of questions, you could find them online. Questions to get to know someone. And then you obviously ask yourself those questions and then write it down or record it. Heck, even make a video talking to yourself. See it as a form of journalism. You are documenting your life. And it's very interesting because then once you have all these things documented, it would help you a lot down the line. Moments where you're feeling lost or heartbroken, you could look back on those videos, on those voice notes, on those journal notes, and you could find words of encouragement from them, from your past self, the self who is really you. So in the moment when you're heartbroken, you're in pain, you're sad, you can't really listen to yourself in that moment because your emotions are all over the place. There's this quote, I can't remember whether it was from a movie or actual quote, but it basically says your mind is like water, and when it's not clear, when there's ripples and stuff in the water, you can't think clearly. So you have to be zen. You have to be at peace. It's in those moments of peacefulness